Book 6 of the Mahabharata, the epic of ancient India condensed into English verse by Ramesh Dutt. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Om123. Book 6 Goharan, Cattle Lifting. The conditions of the banishment of the sons of Pandu were hard. They must pass 12 years in exile, and then they must remain a year in concealment. If they were discovered within this last year, they must go into exile for another 12 years. Having passed the 12 years of exile in forests, the Pandu brothers disguised themselves and entered into the menial service of Virat, king of the Maitsyas, to pass the year of concealment. Yudhishthir presented himself as a Brahmin, skilled in dice, and became a courtier of the king. Vim entered the king's service as cook. For Arjun, who was so well known, a stricter concealment was necessary. He wore corn spangles and earrings, and braided his hair like those unfortunate beings whom nature has debarred from the privileges of man and women, and he lived in the inner apartments of the king. He assumed the name of Brihannala and taught the inmates of the royal household in music and dancing. Nakul became a keeper of the king's horses, and Sahadev took charge of the king's cows. Draupadi too disguised herself as a waiting woman, and served the princess of the Matsya house in that humble capacity. In these disguises the Pandu brothers safely passed a year in concealment, in spite of all search which Duryodhan made after them. At last an incident happened which led to their discovery when the year was out. Cattle lifting was a common practice with the kings of ancient India, as with the chiefs of ancient Greece. The king of the Trigartas and the king of the Kurus combined and fell on the king of the Maitsyas in order to drive off the numerous herd of the fine cattle for which his kingdom was famed. The Trigartas entered the Maitsya kingdom from the southeast, and while Virat went out with his troops to meet the foe, Duryodhan with his Kuru forces fell on the kingdom from the north. When news came that the Kurus had invaded the kingdom, there was no army in the capital to defend it. King Virat had gone out with most of his troops to face the Trigartas in the southeast, and the Prince Uttar had no inclination to face the Kurus in the north. The disguised Arjun now came to the rescue in the manner described in this book. The description of the bows, arrows, and swords of the Pandu brothers, which they had concealed in a tree, wrapped like human corpses, to frighten away inquisitive travellers, throws some light on the arts and manufacture of ancient times. The portions translated in this book form sections 35, 36, 40 to 43, a portion of section 44, and sections 53 and 72 of Book 4 of the original text. 1. Complaint of the Cowherd. Monarch of the mighty Maitsyas, brave Virat, known to fame, marched against Trigarta chieftains, who from the southward regions came. From the north the proud Duryodhan, stealing onwards day by day, swept on Matsya's fattened cattle like the hawk upon its prey. Bhishma, Drona, peerless Karna, led the Kuru warriors brave, swept the kingdom of Virat like the ocean's surging wave. Fell upon the trembling cowherds, chased them from the pasture field. 60,000 head of cattle was the Matsya country's yield. And the wailing chief of cowherds fled forlorn, fatigued, and spent, speeding on his rapid chariot to the royal city went. Came inside the city portals, came within the palace gate, struck his forehead in his anguish, and bewailed his luckless fate. Meeting there the Prince Uttar, youth of beauty and of fame, told him of the Kuru's outrage, and lamented Matsya's shame. 60,000 head of cattle, bred of Matsya's finest breed, to Hastina's distant empire do the Kuru chieftains lead. Glory of the Matsya nation, save thy father's valued kine. Quick thy footsteps, strong thy valour, vengeance deep and dire be thine. Against the fierce Trigarta chieftains, Matsya's warlike king is gone. Thee we count our lord and saviour as our monarch's gallant son. Rise, Uttar, beat the Kurus, homeward lead the stolen kine, like an elephant of jungle, pierce the Kuru's shattered line. As the Venus picket music, by musicians tuned aright, let thy sounding bow and arrows speak thy deeds of matchless might. Harness quick thy milk-white coursers to thy sounding battle car, hoist thy golden lion banner, speed thee, prince, unto the war. And as thunder-wielding Indra smote Asuras fierce and bold, smite the Kurus with thy arrows, winged with plumes of yellow gold. As the famed and warlike Arjun is the stay of Kuru's race, thou art refuge of the Matsyas, and thy kingdom's pride and grace. But the prince went not to battle from the foe to guard the state. To the cowherd answered gaily, sheltered by the palace gate. Not unknown to me the usage of the bow and winged dart, not unknown the warrior's duty or the warrior's noble art. I would win my father's cattle from the wily foeman's greed, if a skilful chariot driver could my fiery coursers lead. For my ancient chariot driver died on battle's gory plain. 28 days we wrestled, many warlike chiefs were slain. Bring me forth a skilful driver, who can urge the battle steed. I will hoist my lion banner to the dubious battle's speed. Dashing through the foeman's horses, ranks of elephant and car, I will win the stolen cattle rescued in the field of war. And like thunder-wielding Indra, smiting Danu's sons of old, I will smite the Kuru chieftains, drive them to their distant hold. Bhishma and the proud Duryodhan, archer Karn known to fame, Drone too shall quail before me and retreat in bitter shame. Do those warriors in my absence Matsya's far-famed cattle steal, but beneath my countless arrows Matsya's vengeance they shall feel. Bring me forth a chariot driver, let me speed my battle car, and in wonder they will question, is this Arjun famed in war? 2. The Disguised Charioteer. Arjun, guised as Brihanala, hot the boast Uttar made, and to try his skill and valour, thus to fair Draupadi prayed. Say to him that Brihanala will his battle chariot lead, that as Arjun's chariot driver he hath learned to urge the steed. Say that faithful Brihanala many a dubious war hath seen, and will win his father's cattle in this contest fierce and keen. Fair Draupadi, guised as menial, Arjun's secret hast obeyed, humbly stepped before Uttar, and in gentle accents prayed. Hear me, prince, e'en Brihanala will thy battle chariot lead. He was Arjun's chariot driver, skilled to urge the flying steed. Trained in war by mighty Arjun, trained to drive the battle car, he had followed helmed Arjun in the glorious field of war. And when Arjun conquered Khandap, this, Uttar, I have seen, Brihanala drove his chariot, for I served Yudhishthir's queen. Hard Uttar, hesitating, spake his faint and timid mind. I trust thee, beauteous maiden, lotus-bosomed, ever kind. But a poor and sexless creature, can he rein the warlike steed? Can I ask him, worse than woman, in the battle's ranks to lead? Need is none, Draupadi answered, Brihanala's grace to ask. He is eager like the war-horse for this great and warlike task. And he waits upon thy sister, she will bid the minion speed, and he wins thy father's cattle, and the victor's glorious meed. Matsya's princess spake to Arjun. Arjun led the battle car, led the doubting Prince Uttar to the dread and dubious war. 3. Arms and Weapons. Arjun drove the prince of Matsya to a darksome Sami tree, spake unto the timid warrior in his accents bold and free. Prince, thy bow and shining arrows, pretty handsome toys are these. Scarcely they beseem a warrior, and the warrior cannot please. Thou shalt find upon this Sami, mark my words which never fail, stately bows and winged arrows, banners, swords, and coats of mail. And the bow, which strongest warriors scarce can in the battle bend, and the limits of a kingdom widen when the bow is trained. Tall and slender like a palm tree, worthy of a warrior bold, smooth the wood of hardened fibre, and the ends are yellow gold. Doubting still, Uttar answered, in this Sami's gloomy shade, corpses hang since many seasons. in their wrappings duly laid. Now I mark them all suspended, horrent in the open air, and to touch the unclean objects, friend, is more than I can dare. Fear not, warrior, Arjun answered, for the tree conceals no dead. Warriors' weapons, cased like corpses, lurk within its gloomy shade. And I ask thee, Prince of Matsya, not to touch an unclean thing, but unto a chief and warrior weapons and his arms to bring. Prince Uttar, gently lighted, climbed a dark and leafy tree. Arjun from the prince's chariot bade him speed the arms to free. Then the young prince cut the wrappings, and the shining bows appear, twisted, voiced like hissing serpents, like the bright stars glistening clear. Seized with wonder, Prince Uttar silently the weapon eyed, and unto his chariot driver thus in trembling accents cried, "Whose this bow so tall and stately? Speak to me, my gentle friend. On the wood are golden bosses, tipped with gold at either end. Whose this second ponderous weapon, stout and massive in the hold? On the stuff are worked by artists, elephants of burnished gold. Sure some great and mighty monarch owns this other bow of might, set with golden glittering insects on its ebon back so bright. Golden suns of wondrous brightness on this fort their lustre land. Who may be the unknown archer who this stately bow can bend? And the fifth is set with jewels, gems and stones of purest ray. Golden fireflies glint and sparkle in the yellow light of day. Who doth own these shining arrows, with their heads in gold encased, 1,000 arrows bright and feathered, in the golden quivers placed? Next are these with vulture feather, golden yellow in their hue, made of iron, keen and whetted, whose may be these arrows true? Next upon this sable quiver, jungle tigers worked in gold, and these keen and boar-eared arrows speak some chieftains fierce and bold. Fourth are these 700 arrows, crescent in their shining blade, thirsting for the blood of foemen, and by cunning artists made. And the fifth are golden crested, made of tempered steel and bright. Parrot feeders wing these arrows, whetted and of wondrous might. Who doth own this wondrous sabre? Shape of toad is on the hilt, on the blade a toad is graven, and the scabbard nobly gilt. Larger, stouter is this second in its sheath of tiger skin, decked with bells and gold surmounted, and the blade is bright and keen. Next this scimitar, so curious by the skilled nishadas made, scabbard made of wondrous cowhide, sheathes the bright and polished blade. Fourth, a long and beauteous weapon, glittering sable in its hue, with its sheath of softer goatskin, worked with gold on azure blue. And the fifth is broad and massive, over 30 fingers long, golden sheathed and gold embossed like a snake or fiery tongue. Joyously responded Arjun, "Mark this bow embossed with gold. It is the wondrous bow gone deep, worthy of a warrior bold. Gift of heaven, to archer Arjun, kindly gods this weapon sent, and the confines of a kingdom widen when the bow is bent." Next this mighty ponderous weapon, worked with elephants of gold. With this bow the stalwart Bhim had the tide of conquests rolled. And the third with golden insects by a cunning hand inlaid. It is Yudhishthir's royal weapon by the noble artists made. Next a bow with solar lustre, brave Nakul wields in fight. And the fifth is Sahadev's, decked with gems and jewels bright. Listen, Prince, these 1,000 arrows unto Arjun they belong, and the darts whose blades are crescent unto Bhim brave and strong. Warrior shafts are young Nakul's, in the tiger quiver cased. Sahadev owns the arrows with the parrot's feeder crazed. These 3-knotted shining arrows, thick and yellow vulture plumed, they belong to King Yudhishthir, with their heads by gold illumed. Listen more, if of these sabres, Prince of Matsya, thou wouldst know. Arjun's sword is toad engraven, ever dreaded by the foe. And the sword in tiger's scabbard, massive and of mighty strength, none save tiger-waisted Bhim wields that sword of wondrous length. Next the sabre golden hilted, sable and with gold embossed, brave Yudhishthir kept that sabre when the king his kingdom lost. Yonder sword with goatskins covered, brave Nakul wields in war. In the cowhide Sahadev keeps his shining scimitar. Strange thy accents, spake Uttar, stranger are the weapons bright. Are they arms of sons of Pandu, famed on art for matchless might? Where are now those pious princes, by a dire misfortune crossed? Warlike Arjun, good Yudhishthir, by his subjects loved and lost. Where is tiger-breasted Bhim, matchless fighter in the field, and the brave and twin-born brothers, skilled the arms of war to wield? Over a game they lost their empire, and we heard of them no more, or perchance they lonesome wander on some wild and distant shore. And Draupadi, noble princess, purest best of womankind, doth she wander with Yudhishthir, changeless in her heart and mind? Proudly answered valiant Arjun, and a smile was on his face. Not in distant lands the brothers do their wandering footsteps trace. In thy father's court disguised lives Yudhishthir, just and good. Bhim in thy father's palace, as a cook prepares the food. Brave Nakul guards the horses, Sahadev tends the kine. As thy sister's waiting omen doth the fair Draupadi shine. Pardon, prince, these rings and bangles, pardon strange unmanly guise. It is no poor and sexless creature, Arjun greets thy wondering eyes. 4. Rescue of the Cattle. Arjun decked his mighty stature in the gleaming arms of war, and with voice of distant thunder rolled the mighty battle car. And the Kurus marked with wonder Arjun's standard lifted proud, hard with dread the deep Gandhib sounding oft and sounding loud. And knew the wondrous bowman wheeling round the battle car, and with doubts and grave misgivings whispered Drona, skilled in war. That is Arjun's monkey standard, how it greets my ancient eyes. Well the Kurus know the standard, like a comet in the skies. Hear ye not the deep Gandhib, how my ear its accents greet? Mark ye not these pointed arrows, falling prone before my feet? By these darts, his salutation to his teacher loved of old, years of exile thou completed, Arjun sends sweet greetings bold. How the gallant prince advances! Now I mark his form and face, issuing from his dark concealment with a brighter, haughtier grace. Well I know his bow and arrows, and I know his standard well, and the deep and echoing accents of his far-resounding shell. In his shining arms a cotred, gleaming in his helmet dread, shines he like the flame of home, by libations duly fed. Arjun marked the Kuru warriors, arming for the impending war, whispered thus to Prince Uttar as he drove the battle car. Stop thy steeds, O Prince of Matsya, for too close we may not go. Stop thy chariot, whence my arrows reach and slay the distant foe. Seek we out the Kuru monarch, proud Duryodhan let us meet. If he falls we win the battle, other chieftains will retreat. There is Drone my preceptor, Drone's warlike son is there, Kripa and the mighty Bhishma, archer Karn tall and fair. Them I seek not in this battle, lead, O lead thy chariot far, midst the chiefs of Duryodhan moves not in the ranks of war. But to save the pilfered cattle, speeds he onward in his fear, while these warriors stay and tarry to defend their monarch's rear. But I leave these car-borne warriors, other work today is mine. Meet Duryodhan in the battle, win thy father's stolen kine. Matsya's prince then turned the courses, left behind the war's array, where Duryodhan with the cattle quickly held his onward way. Kripa marked the course of Arjun, guessed his inmost thought aright. Thus he spake to brother warriors, urging speed and instant fight. Mark ye, chieftains, gallant Arjun wheels his sounding battle car, against our prince and proud Duryodhan, seeks to turn the tide of war. Let us fall upon our foeman, and our prince and leader save. Few save Indra, god of battles, conquers Arjun fierce and brave. What were Matsya's fattened cattle, many thousands though they be, if our monarch sinks in battle, like a ship in stormy sea. Vain were Kripa's words of wisdom. Arjun drove the chariot fair, while his shafts, like countless locusts, whistled through the ambient air. Kuru soldiers, struck with panic, neither stood and fought nor fled, gazed upon the distant Arjun, gazed upon their comrades dead. Arjun twanged his mighty weapon, blew his forest-sounding shell. Strangely spake his monkey standard, Kuru warriors knew it well. Sankha's voice, Gandhip's accents, and the chariot's booming sound filled the air like distant thunder, shook the firm and solid ground. Kuru soldiers fled in terror, or they slumbered with the dead, and the rescued lowing cattle, with their tails uplifted, fled. 5. Warrior's Garden. Now with joy the King Virat to his royal city came, saw the rescued herds of cattle, saw Uttar, prince of fame. Marked the great and gallant Arjun, helmet-wearing, armor-cased, knew Yudhishthir and his brothers, now as royal princes dressed. And he greeted good Yudhishthir, truth-beloving, brave and strong, and to valiant Arjun offered much as princess fair and young. Pardon, monarch, answered Arjun, but I may not take as bride much as young and beauteous princess, whom I love with father's pride. She hath often met me trusting in the inner palace hall, as a daughter on a father waited on my loving call. I have trained her coquille accents, taught her maiden steps in dance, watched her skill and varied graces, all her native charms and hands. Pure is she in thought and action, spotless as my hero boy. Grant her to my son, O monarch, as his wedded wife and joy. Abhimanyu, trained in battle, handsome youth of godlike face, Krishna's sister, fair Subhadra, bore the child of princely grace. Worthy of thy youthful daughter, pure in heart and undefiled, grant it, sire, my Abhimanyu wed thy young and beauteous child. Answered my chaste noble monarch with a glad and grateful heart, words like these befit thy virtue, nobly hast thou done thy part. Be it as thou sayest, Arjun, unto Pandu's race allied, much as royal line is honored, much as king is gratified. 6. The Wedding. Good Yudhishthir heard the tidings, and he gave his pre-assent, unto distant chiefs and monarchs kindly invitations sent. In the town of Upaplavya, of fair my chaste towns the best, made their home the pious brothers to receive each royal guest. Came unto them Kasi's monarch, and his armed troopers came, and the king of fair Panchal with his sons of warlike fame. Came the sons of fair Draupadi, early trained in art of war. Other chiefs and sacrifices came from regions near and far. Krishna, decked in floral garments, with his elder brother came, and his sister fair Subhadra, Arjun's loved and longing dame. Arjun's son, brave Abhimanyu, came upon his flowery car, and with elephants and chargers, troopers trained in art of war. Vrishnis from the sea-guard Dwarka, brave Anthakas known to fame, Vojas from the mighty Chumbal, with the righteous Krishna came. He to gallant sons of Pandu made his presents rich and rare, gems and gold and costly garments, slaves and damsels passing fair. With its quaint and festive greetings came at last the bridal day. Mighty maids were merry-hearted, and the Pandu brothers gay. Conch and cymbal, horn and trumpet, spake forth music soft and sweet, in Virat's royal palace, in the peopled mart and street. And they slayed a jungle red deer, and they spread the ample board, and prepared a cooling palm drink, with the richest wine stored. Mimes and actors please the people, birds recite the ancient song, glories of heroic houses, minstrels by their lays prolong. And deep-bosomed dames of Matsya, jasmine form and lotus face, with their pearls and golden garlands, joyously the bridal grace. Circled by those royal ladies, though they all are bright and fair, brightest shines the fair Draupadi, with a beauty rich and rare. Stately dames and merry maidens lead the young and soft-eyed bride, as the queens of gods encircle Indra's daughter in her pride. Arjun from the Matsya monarch takes the princess passing fair, for his son by fair Subhadra, nursed by Krishna's loving care. With a godlike grace, Yudhishthir stands by faithful Arjun's side, as a father takes a daughter, takes the young and beauteous bride, joins her hands to Abhimanyu's, and with cake and parched rice, on the altar brightly blazing, doth the holy sacrifice. Matsya's monarch on the bridegroom, rich and costly presents pressed. Elephants he gave 200, steeds 7,000 of the best. Poured libations on the altar, on the priests bestowed his gold, offered to the sons of Pandu rich domain and wealth untold. With a pious hand, Yudhishthir, true in heart and pure in mind, made his gifts in golden garments, kind and wealth of every kind. Costly chariots, beds of splendor, robes with thread of gold belaced, wines rich and sweet confection, drinks the richest and the best. Lands he gave unto the Brahman, bullocks to the laboring swine, steeds he gave unto the warrior, to the people gifts and grain. And the city of the Matsyas, teeming with a wealth untold, shone with festive joy and gladness, and with flags and cloths of gold. End of Book 6. Book 7 of the Mahabharata, the epic of ancient India condensed into English verse by Ramesh Dutt. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Om123. Book 7, Udyog, the preparation. The term of banishment having expired, Yudhishthir demanded that the kingdom of Indraprastha should be restored to him. The old Dhritarashtra and his queen, and the aged and virtuous counsellors, advised the restoration. But the jealous Duryodhan hated his cousins with a genuine hatred and would not cement. All negotiations were therefore futile, and preparations were made on both sides for the most sanguinary and disastrous battle that had ever been witnessed in northern India. The portions translated in this book are from sections 1, 2, 3, 94, 124 and 126 of Book 5 of the original text. 1. Krishna's speech. Mirth and song and nuptial music waked the echoes of the night. Youthful bosoms throbbed with pleasure, love-lit glances sparkled bright. But when young and white-robed Ushas opened the golden gates of day, to Virat's council chamber chieftains thoughtful held their way. Stones inlaid in arch and pillar glinted in the glittering dawn, gay festoons and graceful garlands over the golden cushion shone. Matsya's king, Panchal's monarch, foremost seats of honor claim, Krishna too and Valdev, Dwarka's chiefs of righteous fame. By them sat the bold Satyaki, from the sea-girt western shore, and the godlike sons of Pandu, days of dark concealment over. Youthful princes in their splendor graced Virat's royal hall, valiant sons of valiant fathers, brave in war, august and tall. In their gem-bespangled garments came the warriors proud and high, till the council chamber glittered like the star-bespangled sky. Kind the greetings, sweet the converse, soft the golden moments fly, till intent on graver questions, all on Krishna turned their eye. Krishna with his inner vision then the state of things surveyed, and his thoughts before the monarchs thus in weighty accents laid. Known to all, ye mighty monarchs, may your glory ever last. True to plighted word, Yudhishthir had his weary exile passed. 12 long years with fair Draupadi in the pathless jungle strayed, and a year in menial service in Virat's palace stayed. He had kept his plighted promise, braved affliction, woe and shame, and he begs assembled monarchs, ye shall now his duty name. For he swerved not from duty, kingdom of the sky to win, Project hamlet more than empire, so his course be free from sin. Loss of realm and wealth and glory, higher virtues in him prove. Thoughts of peace and not of anger, still the good Yudhishthir move. Mark again the sleepless anger, and the unrelenting hate, harbored by the proud Duryodhan, driven by his luckless fate. From a child, by fire or poison, impious guile or trick of dice, he hath compassed dark destruction, by deceit and low device. Ponder well, ye gracious monarchs, with a just and righteous mind. Help Yudhishthir with your counsel, with your grace and blessings kind. Should the noble son of Pandu seek his right by open war, seek the aid of righteous monarchs and of chieftains near and far, should he smite his ancient foemen skilled in each deceitful art, unforgiving in their vengeance, unrelenting in their heart, should he rather send a message to the proud unbending foe, and Duryodhan's haughty purpose seek by messenger to know, should he send a noble envoy, trained in virtue, true and wise, with his greetings to Duryodhan in a meek and friendly guise, ask him to restore the kingdom on the sacred Jamuna shore, either king may rule his empire, as in happy days of yore. Krishna uttered words of wisdom, pregnant with his peaceful thought, for in peace and not by bloodshed, still Yudhishthir's right he sought. 2. Baldev's speech. Krishna's elder Baldev, stalwart chief who bore the plough, rose and spake, the blood of Vrishnis mantled over his lofty brow. Ye have listened, pious monarchs, to my brother's gentle word. Love he bears to good Yudhishthir and to proud Hastina's lord. For his realm by dark blue Jamuna, good Yudhishthir held of yore. Brave Duryodhan ruled his kingdom on the ruddy Ganga's shore. And once more in love and friendship, either prince may rule his share. For the lands are broad and fertile, each realm is rich and fair. Speed the envoy to Hastina, with our love and greetings kind. Let him speak Yudhishthir's wishes, seek to know Duryodhan's mind. Make obeisance unto Bhishma, and to Drona true and bold, unto Kripa archer Karn, and to chieftains young and old. To the sons of Dhritarashtra, rulers of the Kuru land, righteous in their kingly duties, stout of heart and strong of hand. To the princes and to burghers, gathered in the council hall, let him speak Yudhishthir's wishes, plead Yudhishthir's cause to all. Speak he not in futile anger, for Duryodhan holds the power, and Yudhishthir's wrath were folly in this sad and luckless hour. By his dearest friends dissuaded, but by rage or madness driven, he hath played and lost his empire, may his folly be forgiven. Indraprastha's spacious empire, now Duryodhan deems his own, by his tears and soft entreaty, let Yudhishthir seek the throne. Open war I do not counsel, humbly seek Duryodhan's grace. War will not restore the empire, nor the gambler's loss replace. Thus, with cold and cruel candor, stalwart Baldev cried. Wrathful rose the brave Satyaki, fiercely thus to him replied. 3. Satyaki's speech. Shame unto the halting chieftain, who thus pleads Duryodhan's part. Timid counsel, Baldev speaks a woman's timid heart. Oft from warlike stock ariseth weakling chief who bends the knee, as a withered fruitless sapling springeth from a fruitful tree. From a heart so faint and craven words must flow. Monarchs in their pride and glory, list not to such counsel low. Couldst thou, impious Baldev, midst these potentates of fame, on Yudhishthir pious-hearted, cast this undeserved blame? Challenged by his wily foemen, and by dark misfortune crossed, trusting to their fate, Yudhishthir played a righteous game and lost. Challenge from a crowned monarch, can a crowned king decline? Can a Kshatriya warrior fathom fraud in sons of royal line? Nathless he surrendered empire, true to fate and plighted word, lived for years in pathless forests, Indraprastha's mighty lord. Past his years of weary exile, now he claims his realm of old, claims it not as humble suppliant, but as king and warrior bold. Past his year of dark concealment, bold Yudhishthir claims his own. Proud Duryodhan now must render Indraprastha's jewelled throne. Bhishma counsels, Drona urges, Kripa pleads for right in vain. False Duryodhan will not render, sinful conquest wrought will gain. Open war I therefore counsel, ruthless and relentless war. Grace we seek not when we meet them speeding in our battle car. And our weapons, not entreaties, shall our foemen force to yield. Yield Yudhishthir's rightful kingdom, or they perish on the field. False Duryodhan and his forces fall beneath our battle shock, as beneath the bolt of thunder falls the crushed and riven rock. Who shall meet the helmed Arjun in the gory field of war? Krishna with his fiery discus mounted on his battle car. Who shall face the twin-born brothers by the mighty Bhima led, and the vengeful chief Satyaki with his bow and arrows dread? Ancient Drupad wields his weapon, peerless in the field of fight, and his brave son, born of Agni, owns an all-consuming might. Abhimanyu, son of Arjun, whom the fair Subhadra bore, and whose happy nuptials brought us from far Dwarka's sea-girt shore. Man on earth, nor bright immortals, can the youthful hero face, when with more than Arjun's prowess, Abhimanyu leads the race. Dhritarashtra's sons we conquer, and Gandhar's wily son, vanquish Karan though old honored for his deeds of valor done. Win the fierce contested battle, and redeem Yudhishthir's own. Place the exile pious-hearted on his father's ancient throne. And no sin Satyaki reckons, slaughter of the mortal foe, but to beg a grace of foemen were immortal sin and woe. Speed we then unto our duty, let our impious foemen yield, or the fiery son of Sini meets them on the battlefield. 4. Drupad's speech. Fair Panchal's ancient monarch rose his secret thoughts to tell. From his lips the words of wisdom with a graceful accent fell. Much I fear thou speakest truly. Hard is Kuru's stubborn race. Vain the hope, the effort futile, to beseech Duryodhan's grace. Dhritarashtra pleaded vainly. Feeble is his fitful star. Ancient Bhishma, righteous Drona, cannot stop this fatal war. Archer Karan thirsts for battle, moved by jealousy and pride. Deep Sakuni, false and wily, still supports Duryodhan's side. Vain is Baladev's counsel, vainly shall our envoy plead. Half his empire proud Duryodhan yields not in his boundless greed. In his pride he deems our mildness faint and feeble-hearted fear, and our sweat will fan his glory, and his arrogance will cheer. Therefore let our many heralds travel near and travel far, seek alliance of all monarchs in the great impending war. Unto brave and noble chieftains, unto nations east and west, north and south to warlike races, speed our message and request. Meanwhile, peace and offered friendship we before Duryodhan place, and my priest will seek Hastina, strive to win Duryodhan's grace. If he renders Indraprastha, peace will crown the happy land, or our troops will shake the empire from the east to western strand. Vainly were Panchal's Brahmins sent with messages of peace, vainly urged Hastina's elders that the fatal feud should cease. Proud Duryodhan to his kinsmen would not yield their proper share. Pandu's sons would not surrender, for they had the will to dare. Fatal war and dire destruction did the mighty gods ordain, till the kings and armed nations strewed the red and reeking plain. Krishna in his righteous effort sought for wisdom from above, strove to stop the war of nations and to end the feud in love. And to far Hastina's palace Krishna went to sue for peace, raised his voice against the slaughter, begged that strife and feud should cease. 5. Krishna's speech at Hastina. Silent sat the listening chieftains in Hastina's council hall. With the voice of rolling thunder, Krishna spake unto them all. Listen, mighty Dhritarashtra, Kuru's great and ancient king. Seek not war and death of kinsmen, word of peace and love I bring. Midst the wide earth's many nations, words in their words excel. Love and kindness, spotless virtue, in the Kuru elders dwell. Father of the noble nation, now retired from life's turmoil, I'll beseems that sin or untruth should thy ancient bosom soil. For thy sons in impious anger seek to do their kinsmen wrong, and withhold the throne and kingdom which by right to them belong. And the danger does arise it, like the comet's baleful fire. Slaughtered kinsmen, bleeding nations, soon shall feed its fatal ire. Stretch thy hands, O Kuru monarch, prove thy truth and holy grace. Man of peace, avert the slaughter, and preserve thy ancient race. Yet restrain thy fiery children, for thy mandates they obey. I with sweet and soft persuasion Pandu's truthful sons will sway. It is thy profit, Kuru monarch, that the fatal field should cease. Brave Duryodhan, good Yudhishthir, rule in unmolested peace. Pandu's sons are strong in valor, mighty in their armed hand. Indra shall not shake thy empire when they guard the Kuru land. Bhishma is thy kingdom's bulwark, doughty Drona rules the war. Karn matchless with his arrows, Kripa peerless in his car. Let Yudhishthir and stout Bhima by these noble warriors stand, and let helmet-wearing Arjun guard the sacred Kuru land. Who shall then contest thy prowess from the sea to farthest sea, ruler of a world-wide empire, king of kings and nations free? Sons and grandsons, friends and kinsmen, will surround thee in a ring, and a race of loving heroes guard their ancient hero king. Dhritarashtra's lofty edicts will proclaim his boundless sway. Nations work their righteous mandates, and the kings his will obey. If this concord be rejected, and the lust of war prevail, soon within these ancient chambers will resound the sound of wail. Grant thy children be victorious, and the sons of Pandu slain. Dear to thee are Pandu's children, and their death must cause thee pain. But the Pandavs, skilled in warfare, are renowned both near and far, and thy race and children's slaughter will methinks pollute this war. Sons and grandsons, loving princes, thou shalt never see again. Kinsmen brave and car-born chieftains will bedeck the gory plain. Ponder yet, O ancient monarch, rulers of each distant state, nations from the farthest regions gather thick to court their fate. Father of a righteous nation, save the princes of the land. On the armed and fated nations, stretch, old man, thy saving hand. Say the word, and at thy bidding leaders of each hostile race, not the gory field of battle, but the festive board will grace. Robed in jewels, decked in garlands, they will quaff the ruddy wine. Greet their foes in mutual kindness, bless thy holy name and thine. Think, O man of many seasons, when good Pandu left this throne, and his helpless loving orphans thou didst cherish as thine own. It was thy helping steadying fingers taught their infant steps to frame. It was thy loving gentle accents taught their lips to lisp each name. As thine own they grew and blossomed, dear to thee they yet remain. Take them back unto thy bosom, be a father once again. Unto thee, O Dhritarashtra, Pandu's sons in homage band, and the loving peaceful message through my willing lips descend. Tell our monarch more than father, by his sacred stern command, we have lived in pathless jungle, wandered far from land to land. True unto our plighted promise, for we ever felt and knew, to his promise Dhritarashtra cannot, will not be untrue. Years of anxious toil are over, and of woe and bitterness, years of waiting and of watching, years of danger and distress. Like a dark unbending midnight, hung on us this age forlorn. Streaks of hope and dawning brightness usher now the radiant morn. Be unto us as a father, loving, not inspired by wrath. Be unto us as preceptor, pointing us the righteous path. If perchance astray we wander, Thy strong arm shall lead aright. If our feeble bosom fainteth, help us with a father's might. This, O King, the soft entreaty Pandu's sons to thee have made. These are words the sons of Pandu unto Kuru's king have said. Take their love, O gracious monarch, let thy closing days be fair. Let Duryodhan keep his kingdom, let the Pandavas have their share. Call to mind their noble suffering, for the tale is dark and long, of the outrage they have suffered, of the insult and the wrong. Exiled into Varnavat, destined unto death by flame, for the gods assist the righteous, they with added prowess came. Exiled into Indraprasth, by their toil and by their might, cleared the forest, built the city, did the Rajasuya right. Cheated of their realm and empire, and of all they called their own, in the jungle they have wandered, and in Matsya lived unknown. Once more quelling every evil, they are stout of heart and hand. Now redeem thy plighted promise, and restore their throne and land. Trust me, mighty Dhritarashtra, trust me, lords who grace this hall. Krishna pleads for peace and virtue, blessings unto you and all. Slaughter not the armed nations, slaughter not thy kids and kin. Mark not, king, thy closing winters with the bloody stain of sin. Let thy sons and Pandu's children stand beside thy ancient throne. Cherish peace and cherish virtue, for thy days are almost done. 6. Bhishma's speech. From the monarch's ancient bosom, sighs and sobs convulsive broke. Bhishma wiped his manly eyelids, and to proud Duryodhan spoke. Listen, prince, for righteous Krishna counsels love and holy peace. Listen, youth, and may thy fortune with thy passing years increase. Yield to Krishna's words of wisdom, for thy will he nobly strives. Yield and save thy friends and kinsmen, save thy cherished subjects' lives. Foremost race in all this wide earth is Hastina's royal line. Bring not on them dire destruction by a sinful act of thine. Sons and fathers, friends and brothers, shall in mutual conflict die. Kinsmen slain by dearest kinsmen shall upon the red field lie. Hearken unto Krishna's counsel, unto wise Vidur's word. Be thy mother's fond entreaty, and thy father's mandate heard. Tempt not Deva's fiery vengeance on thy old heroic race. Tread not in the path of darkness, seek the path of light and grace. Listen to thy king and father, he hath Kuru's empire graced. Listen to thy queen and mother, she hath nursed thee on her breast. 7. Drona's speech. Outspake Drona, priest and warrior, and his words were few and high. Clouded was Duryodhan's forehead, wrathful was Duryodhan's eye. Thou hast heard the holy counsel, which the righteous Krishna said. Ancient Bhishma's voice of warning thou hast in thy bosom weighed. Peerless in their godlike wisdom are these chiefs in peace or strife, truest friends to thee, Duryodhan, pure and sinless in their life. Take their counsel, and thy kinsmen fasten in the bonds of peace. May the empire of the Kurus and their warlike fame increase. List unto thy old preceptor, faithless is thy fitful star. False they feed with hopes thy bosom, those who urge and counsel war. Crowned kings and armed nations, they will strive for thee in vain. Vainly, brothers, sons, and kinsmen will for thee their lifeblood drain. For the victor's crown and glory never, never can be thine. Krishna conquers, and brave Arjun, mark these deathless words of mine. I have trained the youthful Arjun, seen him bend the warlike bow, marked him charge the hostile forces, marked him smite the scattered foe. Fiery son of Jamadagni, owned no greater, loftier might, breathes on earth no mortal warrior, conquers Arjun in the fight. Krishna too, in war resistless, comes from Dwarka's distant shore, and the bright gods quake before him, whom the fair Devaki bore.
These are foes thou mayst not conquer. Take an ancient warrior's word. Act thou as thy heart decideth. Thou art Kuru's king and lord.
8. Vidur's speech. Then in gentler voice Vidur sought his pensive mind to tell. From his lips serene and softly words of woe and anguish fell. Not for thee I grieve, Duryodhan, slain by vengeance fierce and keen. For thy father weeps my bosom and the aged Kuru queen. Sons and grandsons, friends and kinsmen, slaughtered in this fatal war, homeless, cheerless, on this wide earth, they shall wander long and far. Friendless, kinless, on this wide earth whither shall they turn and fly? Like some bird bereft of plumage, they shall pine a while and die. Of their race and set survivors, they shall wander over the earth. Curse the fatal day, Duryodhan, saw thy sad and woeful birth. 9. Dhritarashtra's speech. Teardrops filled his sightless eyeballs, anguish shook his aged frame, as the monarch soothed Duryodhan by each fond endearing name. Listen, dearest son Duryodhan, shun this dark and fatal strife, cast not grief and death's black shadows on thy parents' closing life. Krishna's heart is pure and spotless, true and wise the words he said. We may win a worldwide empire with the noble Krishna's aid. Seek the friendship of Yudhishthir, loved of righteous gods above, and unite the scattered Kurus by the lusting tie of love. Now at full is tide of fortune, never may it come again. Strive and win, or ever after all repentance may be vain. Peace is righteous Krishna's counsel, and he offers loving peace. Take the offered boon, Duryodhan, let all strife and hatred cease. 10. Duryodhan's speech. Silent sat the proud Duryodhan, wrathful in the council hall, spake to mighty armed Krishna, and to Kuru warriors all. I'll becomes thee, Dwarka's chieftain, in the paths of sin to move. Bear for me a secret hatred, for the Pandav's secret love. And my father, wise Vidur, ancient Bhishma, Drona bold, join thee in this bitter hatred, turn on me their glances cold. What great crime or darkening sorrow shadows over my bitter fate, that ye chiefs and Kuru's monarch mark Duryodhan for your hate? Speak, what nameless guilt or folly, secret sin to me unknown, turns from me your sweet affection, father's love that was my own? If Yudhishthir, fond of gambling, played a heedless, reckless game, lost his empire and his freedom, was it then Duryodhan's blame? And if freed from shame and bondage, in his folly played again, lost again and went to exile, wherefore doth he now complain? Weak are they in friends and forces, feeble is their faithful star, wherefore then in pride and folly seek with us unequal war? Shall we, who to mighty Indra scarce will do the homage due, bow to homeless sons of Pandu and their comrades faint and few? Bow to them while warlike Drona leads us as in days of old, Bhishma, greater than the bright gods, archer Karan, true and bold. If in dubious game of battle we should forfeit fame and life, heaven will ope its golden portals for the Kshatriya slain in strife. If unbending to our foemen we should press the gory plain, stingless is the bait of arrows, that for us will have no pain. For the Kshatriya knows no terror of his foeman in the field, breaks like hardened forest timber, bounds not, knows not how to yield. So the ancient sage Matanga of the warlike Kshatriya said, save to priest and sage preceptor, unto none he bends his head. Indraprasth, which my father weakly to Yudhishthir gave, never more shall go unto him, while I live and brothers brave. Kuru's undivided kingdom, Dhritarashtra rules alone. Let us seat our swords in friendship, and the monarch's empire own. If in past, in thoughtless folly, once the realm was broken in twain, Kuru land is reunited, never shall be split again.
take my message to my kinsmen, for Duryodhan's words are plain. Portion of the Kuru Empire, sons of Pandu seek in vain. Town nor village, mart nor hamlet, help us righteous gods in heaven. Spot that needle's point can cover, not unto them be given.
End of Book 7. Book 8 of the Mahabharata, the epic of ancient India, condensed into English verse by Ramesh Dutt. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Om123. Book 8, Bhishmabad, Fall of Bhishma. All negotiations for a peaceful partition of the Kuru kingdom having failed, both parties now prepared for a battle, perhaps the most sanguinary that was fought on the plains of India in the ancient times. It was a battle of nations, for all warlike races in northern India took a share in it. Duryodhan's army consisted of his own division as well as the divisions of 10 allied kings. Each allied power is said to have brought 1 Akshayani troops, and if we reduce this fabulous number to the moderate figure of 10,000, including horse and foot, cars and elephants, Duryodhan's army, including his own division, was over 100,000 strong. Yudhishthir had a smaller army, said to have been 7 Akshahinis in number, which he may, by a similar reduction, reckon to be 70,000. His father-in-law, the king of the Panchals, and Arjun's relative, the king of the Matsyas, were his principal allies. Krishna joined him as his friend and adviser, and as the charioteer of Arjun. But the Brishnis as a nation had joined Duryodhan. When the two armies were drawn up in array and faced each other, and Arjun saw his revered elders and dear friends and relations among his foes, he was unwilling to fight. It was on this occasion that Krishna explained to him the great principles of duty in that memorable work called the Bhagavad Gita, which has been translated into so many European languages. Belief in one supreme deity is the underlying thought of this work, and ever and anon, as Professor Garber remarks, does Krishna revert to the doctrine that for every man, no matter to what caste he may belong, the jealous performance of his duty and the discharge of his obligations is his most important work. Duryodhan chose the grand old fighter Bhishma as the commander-in-chief of his army. For 10 days, Bhishma held his own and inflicted serious loss on Yudhishthir's army. The principal incidents of these 10 days, ending with the fall of Bhishma, are narrated in this book. This book is an abridgment of Book 6 of the original text. 1. Pandavas routed by Bhishma. Ushas, with her crimson fingers, opened the portals of the day. Nations armed for mortal combat in the field of battle lay. Beat of drum and blare of trumpet, and the Sankha's lofty sound, by the answering cloud repeated, shook the hills and tented ground. And the voice of sounding weapons, which the warlike archers drew, and the neigh of battle chargers as the armed horsemen flew, mingled with the rolling thunder of each swiftly speeding car, and its pealing bells proclaiming mighty elephants of war. Bhishma led the Kuru forces, strong as death's resistless flail. Human chiefs nor bright immortals could against his might prevail. Helmet-wearing gallant Arjun came in pride and mighty wrath, held aloft his famed Gandhi, strove to cross the chieftain's path. Abhimanyu, son of Arjun, whom the fair Subhadra bore, drove against Koshala's monarch, famed in arms and holy lore. Hurling down Koshala's standard, he the dubious combat won, barely escaped with life the monarch from the fiery Arjun's son. With his fated foe Duryodhan, Bhima strove in that full war, and against the proud Dusasan, brave Nakul drove his car. Sahadev, mighty bowman, then the fierce Durmukha sought, and the righteous King Yudhishthir with the car-borne Shalya fought. Ancient feud and deathless hatred fired the Brahman warrior bold. Drona with the proud Panchals fought once more his feud of old. Nations from the eastern regions against the bold Virat pressed. Kripa met the wild Kaikas hailing from the farthest west. Drupad, proud and peerless monarch,
with his cohorts onward bore, against a warlike Jedrid, chief of Sindhu's sounding shore. Chedis and the valiant Matsyas, nations gathered from afar, Vojas and the fierce Kambojas mingled in the dubious war. Through the day the battle lasted, and no mortal tongue can tell what unnumbered chieftains perished, and what countless soldiers fell. And the son knew not his father, and the sire knew not his son. Brother fought against his brother, strange the deeds of valor done. Horses fell, and shafts of chariots shivered in resistless shock, hurled against a foeman's chariots, speeding like the rolling rock. Elephants by mahouts driven furiously, each other tore, trumpeting with trunks uplifted, on the serried soldiers bore. Ceaseless plied the gallant troopers, with a stern unyielding might, pikes and axes, clubs and maces, swords and spears and lances bright. Horsemen flew as fork gliding, heroes fought in shining mail, archers poured their feathered arrows like the bright and glistening hail. Bhishma, leader of the Kurus, as declined the dreadful day, through the shattered path of legions, forced his all resistless way. Onward went his palm tree standard, through the hostile ranks of war. Matsyas, Kashis, nor Panchalas faced the mighty Bhishma's car. But the fiery son of Arjun, filled with shame and bitter wrath, turned his car and tawny coursers to obstruct the chieftain's path. Vainly fought the youthful warrior, though his darts were pointed well, and dissevered from his chariot, Bhishma's palm tree standard fell. Anger stirred the ancient Bhishma, and he rose in all his might. Abhimanyu, pierced with arrows, fell and fainted in the fight. Then to save the son of Arjun, Matsya's gallant princes came, brave Uttar, noble Sweta, youthful warriors known to fame. Ah, too early fell the warriors in that sad and fatal strife. Matsya's dames and dark-eyed maidens wept the prince's shortened life. Slain by cruel fate, untimely, fell two brothers young and good. Dauntless still the youngest brother, proud and gallant, Sankha stood. But the helmet-wearing Arjun came to stop the victor's path, and to save the fearless Sankha from the ancient Bhishma's wrath. Drupad too, Panchal's monarch, swiftly rushed into the fray, strove to shield the broken Pandavas and to stop the victor's way. But as fire consumes the forest, wrathful Bhishma slew the foe. None could face his sounding chariot and his ever-circled bow. And the fainting Pandav brothers marked the foe resistless bold, shook like unprotected cattle, teetered in the blighting cold. Onward came the mighty Bhishma, and the slaughter fiercer grew. From his bow, like hissing serpents, still the glistening arrows flew. Onward came the ancient warrior, and his path was strewn with dead, and the broken Pandav forces, crushed and driven, scattered fled. Friendly night and gathering darkness closed the slaughter of the day. To their tents the sons of Pandu held their sad and weary way. 2. Kurus rooted by Arjun. Grieved at heart, the good Yudhishthir wept the losses of the day, sought the aid of gallant Krishna for the morning's fresh array. And when from the eastern mountains Surya drove his fiery car, Bhishma and the helmed Arjun strove to turn the tide of war. Bhishma's glorious palm tree standard over the field of battle rose. Arjun's monkey standard glittered, cleaving through the serried foes. Devas from their cloud-borne chariots, and Gandharvs from the sky, gazed in mute and speechless wonder on the human chiefs from high. While with dauntless valor Arjun still the mighty Bhishma sought, warlike prince of fair Panchal with the doughty Drona fought. Ceaseless against the proud preceptor sent his darts like summer rain. Baffled by the skill of Drona, Drishtadyumna strove in vain. But the fiercer darts of Drona pierced the prince's shattered mail, hurtling on his battle chariot like an angry shower of hail. And they rent in twain his bowstring, and they cut his ponderous mace, slew his steeds and chariot driver, streaked with blood his godlike face. Dauntless still, Panchal's hero, springing from his shadowed car, like a hungry desert lion, with his sabre rushed to war. Dashed aside the darts of Drona, with his broad and ample shield, with his sabre brightly flaming, fearless trod the reddened field. In his fury and his rashness he had fallen on that day, but the ever-watchful Bhima stopped the proud preceptor's way. Proud Duryodhan marked with anger Bhima rushing in his car, and he sent Kalinga's forces to the thickening ranks of war. Onward came Kalinga warriors with the dark tornado's might, dusky chiefs, Nishad warriors, gloomy as the sable night. Rose the shout of warring nations, surging to the battle's roar, like the angry voice of tempest and the ocean's troubled roar. And like darkly rolling breakers, ranks of serried warriors flew, scarcely in the thickening darkness, friends and kin from foemen knew. Fell the young prince of Kalinga, by the wrathful Bhima slain, but against Kalinga's monarch, baffled Bhima fought in vain. Safely sat the stern monarch on his howdah's lofty seat, till upon the giant tusker Bhima sprang with agile feet. Then he struck with fatal fury, brave Kalinga fell in twain, scattered fled his countless forces when they saw their leader slain. Darkly rolled the tide of battle, where Duryodhan's valiant son strove against the son of Arjun, famed for deeds of valor done. Proud Duryodhan marked a contest with a father's anxious heart, came to save his gallant Lakshman from brave Abhimanyu's dart. And the helmet-wearing Arjun marked his son among his foes, wheeled from far his battle chariot, and in wrath terrific rose. Arjun, Arjun, cried the Kurus, and in panic broke and fled. Steed and tusker torn from battle, soldiers fell among the dead. Godlike Krishna drove the coursers of resistless Arjun's car, and the sound of Arjun's Sankha rose above the cry of war. And the voice of his Gandhip spread a terror far and near. Crushed and broken, faint and frightened, fled the Kurus in their fear. Onward still through scattered foemen, conquering Arjun held his way, till the evening's gathering darkness closed the action of the day. 3. Bhishma and Arjun meet. Anxious was the proud Duryodhan when the golden morning came, for before the car of Arjun fled each Kuru chief of fame. Brave Duryodhan shook in anger, and a tremor moved his frame, as he spake to ancient Bhishma words of wrath in bitter shame. Bhishma, dost thou lead the Kurus in this battle's crimson field? Warlike Drona, doth he guard us like a broad and ample shield? Wherefore then before yon Arjun do the valiant Kurus fly? Wherefore doth our leader linger when he hears the battle cry? Doth a secret love for Pandavs quell our leader's matchless might? With a halting chill for Kurus doth the noble Bhishma fight? Pardon, chief, if for the Pandavs doth thy partial heart incline. Yield thy place, let faithful Karn lead my gallant Kuru line. Anger flamed on Bhishma's forehead, and a tear was in his eye, and in accents few and trembling thus the warrior made reply. Vain our toil, unwise Duryodhan, nor can Bhishma warrior old, nor can Drona skilled in weapons, Karn archer proud and bold, wash the stain of deeds unholy, and of wrongs and outraged laws, conquer with a load of cunning against a right and righteous cause. Deaf to wisdom's voice, Duryodhan, deaf to parents and to kin, thou shalt perish in thy folly, in thy unrepented sin. For the wrongs and insults offered unto good Yudhishthir's wife, for the kingdom from him stolen, for the plots against his life, for the dreadful oath of Bhima, for the holy counsel given, vainly given by saintly Krishna, thou art doomed by righteous heaven. Meanwhile, since he leads thy forces, Bhishma still shall meet his foe, or to conquer or to perish, to the battle's front I go. Speaking thus unto the battle, ancient Bhishma held his way, sweeping all before his chariot as upon a previous day. And the army of Yudhishthir shook from end to farthest end. Arjun nor the valiant Krishna
could against a tide contend. Cars were shattered, fled the coursers, elephants were pierced and slain. Shafts of chariots, broken standards, lifeless soldiers strewed the plain. Coats of mail were left by warriors as they ran with streaming hair. Soldiers fled like herds of cattle, stricken by sudden fear. Krishna, Arjun's chariot driver, and the chief of righteous fame, marked the broken Pandav forces, spake in grief and bitter shame. Arjun, not in hour of battle, had it been thy wont to fly, forward lay thy path of glory, or to conquer or to die. If today with angry Bhishma, Arjun shunts the dubious fight, shame on Krishna, if he joins thee in this sad inglorious flight. Be it mine alone, O Arjun, warriors' wonted work to know, Krishna with his fiery discus smites the all-resistless foe. Then he flung the reins to Arjun, left the steeds in sounding car, leaped upon the field of battle, rushed into the dreadful war. Shame, cried Arjun in his anger. Krishna shall not wage the fight, nor shall Arjun like a recreant seek for safety in his flight. And he dashed behind the warrior, and on foot the chief pursued, caught him as the angry Krishna still his distant foeman viewed. Stalwart Arjun lifted Krishna as the storm lifts up a tree, placed him on his battle chariot, and he bent to him his knee. Pardon, Krishna, this compulsion, pardon this transgression bold, but while Arjun lives, O chief dame, weapon of thy wrath withhold. By my warlike Abhimanyu, fair Subhadra's darling boy, by my brothers dearer, truer, than in hours of pride and joy. By my troth I pledge thee, Krishna, let thy angry discus sleep. Archer Arjun meets his foeman, and his plighted word will keep. Forthwith rushed the fiery Arjun in his sounding battle car, and like waves before him parted serried ranks of hostile war. Vainly hurled his lance Duryodhan against the valiant warrior's face. Vainly Salya, king of Madra, drew with skill his ponderous mace. With disdain the godlike Arjun dashed the feeble darts aside, hold aloft his famed Gandiv as he stood with haughty pride. Beat of drum and blare of Sankha, and the thunder of his car, and his weapon's fearful accents rose terrific near and far. Came resistless Pandav forces, sweeping onward wave on wave, Chedis, Matsyas, and Panchalas, chieftains true and warriors brave. Onward too came forth the Kurus, by the matchless Bhishma led. Shouts arose and cry of anguish midst the dying and the dead. But the evening closed in darkness, and the night fires fitful flared. Fainting troops and bleeding chieftains to their various tents repaired. 4. Duryodhan's brothers slain. Dawned another day of battle. Kurus knew that day too well. Widowed queens of fair Hastina wept before the evening fell. For as whirlwind of destruction, Bhima swept in mighty wrath, broke the serried line of taskers, vainly sent to cross his path. Smote Duryodhan with his arrows, 3 terrific darts and 5. Smote proud Salya from the battle, scarce they bore the chiefs alive. Then Duryodhan's 14 brothers rushed into the dreadful fray. Fatal was the luckless moment, inauspicious was the day. Licked his mouth the vengeful Bhima, and he shook his bow and lance, as the lion lolls his red tongue when he see his prey advance. Short and fierce the furious combat, 6 pale princes turned and fled. 8 of proud Duryodhan's brothers fell, and slumbered with the dead. 5. Saityaki's son slain. Morning, with her fiery radiance, opened the portals of the day, shone once more on Kuru warriors, Pandav chiefs in dread array. Bhima and the gallant Arjun led once more the van of war, but the proud preceptor Drona faced them in his sounding car. Still with gallant son of Arjun, Lakshman strove with bow and shield. Vainly strove, his faithful henchmen bore him bleeding from the field. Lakshman, son of proud Duryodhan, Abhimanyu Arjun's son, doomed to die in youth and glory beneath the same revolving sun.
Sad the day for Brishni warriors, brave Saityaki's sons of might, against the cruel Vurisravas, strove in unrelenting fight. 10 brave brothers, pride of Brishni, fell upon that fatal day, slain by mighty Vurisravas, and upon the red field lay. 6. Bhima's danger and rescue. Dawned another day of slaughter, heedless Bhima forced his way through Duryodhana's serried legions, where dark death and danger lay. And the 100 foemen gathered, and unequal was the strife. Bhima strove with furious valor, for his forfeit was his life. Fair Panchal's watchful monarch saw the danger from afar, forced his way where bleeding Bhima fought beside his shattered car. And he helped the fainting warrior, placed him on his chariot seat, but the Kurus darkly gathered, surging round as waters meet. Arjun's son and 12 brave chieftains dashed into the dubious fray, rescued Bhima and proud Drupad from the Kurus' grim array. Surging still, the Kuru forces onward came with ceaseless might. Drona smote the scattered Pandavas till the darksome hours of night. 7. Pandavas routed by Bhishma. Morning came, and angry Arjun rushed into the dreadful war. Krishna drove his milk-white coursers, onward flew his sounding car. And before his monkey banner quailed the faint and frightened foes, till like star on billowy ocean, Bhishma's palm tree banner rose. Vainly then the good Yudhishthir, stalwart Bhima, Arjun brave, strove with useless toil and valor, shattered ranks of war to save. Vainly too the Pandav brothers on the peerless Bhishma fell. Gods in sky nor earthly warriors Bhishma's matchless might could quell. Fell Yudhishthir's lofty standard, shook his chariot battle-tossed, fell his proud and fiery coursers, and the dreadful day was lost. Sahadeva and Nakul vainly strove with all their might, till their broken scattered forces rested in the shades of night. 8. Iravat slain, Duryodhana's brother slain. Morning saw the turn of battle, Bhishma's charioteer was slain, and his coursers uncontrolled flew across the reddened plain. Ill it fared with Kuru forces when their leader went astray, and their foremost chiefs and warriors with the dead and dying lay. But Gandhar's mounted princes rode across the battleground, for its steeds and matchless chargers is Gandhar's realm renowned. And to smite the young Iravat, fierce Gandhar's princess swore, brave Iravat, son of Arjun, whom a Naga princess bore. Mounted on their milk-white chargers, proudly did the princes sweep, like the seabirds skimming gaily over the bosom of the deep. 5 of stout Gandhar's princes in that fatal combat fell, and the 6th in fear and faintness fled the awful tale to tell. Short, alas, Iravat's triumph, transient was the victor's joy. Alumbasha, dark and dreadful, came against the gallant boy. Fierce and fateful was the combat, mournful is the tale to tell. Like a lotus rudely severed, gallant son of Arjun fell. Arjun heard the tale of sorrow, and his heart was filled with grief. Thus he spake a father's anguish, faint his accents, few and brief. Wherefore, Krishna, for a kingdom mingled in this fatal fray, kinsmen killed and comrades slaughtered, dear alas the price we pay. Woe unto Hastina's empire, built upon our children's grave. Dearer than the throne of monarchs was Iravat, the young and brave. Young in years and rich in beauty, with thy mother's winsome eye, art thou slain, my gallant warrior, and thy father was not nigh. But thy young blood calls for vengeance. Noble Krishna, drive the car. Let them feel the father's prowess, those who slew the son in war. And he dashed the glistening teardrop, and his words were few and brief. Broken ranks and slaughtered chieftains spoke an angry father's grief. Bhima too revenged Iravat, and as onward still he flew, brothers of the proud Duryodhan in that fatal combat slew. Still advanced the fatal carnage till the darksome close of day, when the wounded and the weary with the dead and dying lay. 9. Pandavs rooted by Bhishma. Fell the thickening shades of darkness on the red and ghastly plain. Torches by the white tents flickered, red fires showed the countless slain. With a bosom sorrow-laden, proud Duryodhan drew his breath, wept the issue of the battle, and his warlike brothers dead. Spent with grief and silent sorrow, slow the Kuru monarch went, where arose in dewy starlight Bhishma's proud and snowy tent. And with tears and hands conjoined, thus the sad Duryodhan spoke, and his mournful bitter accents oft by heaving sighs were broke. Bhishma, on thy matchless prowess, Kuru's hopes and fates depend. Gods nor man with warlike Bhishma can in field of war contend. Brave in war are sons of Pandu, but they face not Bhishma's might. In their fierce and deathless hatred, slay my brothers in the fight. Mind thy pledge, O chief of Kurus, save Hastina's royal race. On the ancient king, my father, grant thy never-failing grace. If within thy noble bosom, pardon cruel words I say, secret love for sons of Pandu holds a soft and partial sway. If thy inner heart's affection unto Pandu's sons incline, grant that Karna lead my forces against the foeman's hostile line. Bhishma's heart was full of sadness, and his eyelids dropped a tear. Soft and mournful were his accents, and his vision true and clear. Vain, Duryodhan, is this contest, and thy mighty host is vain. Why with blood of friendly nations drench this red and reeking plain? They must win, who, strong in virtue, fight for virtue's stainless laws. Doubly armed the stalwart warrior, who is armed in righteous cause. Think, Duryodhan, when Gandharvs took thee captive and a slave, didn't Arjun rend thy fetters, Arjun righteous chief and brave? When in Matsya's fields of pasture captured we Virat's kind, didn't Arjun in his valor beat thy countless force and mine? Krishna now hath come to Arjun, Krishna drives his battle car. Gods nor man can face these heroes in the field of righteous war. Ruin frowns upon thee, Duryodhan, and upon thy impious state. In thy pride and in thy folly, thou hast courted cruel fate. Bhishma still will do his duty, and his end it is not far. Then may other chieftains follow. Fatal is this Kuru war. Down the day of mighty slaughter, and of dread and deathful war, ancient Bhishma in his anger drove once more his sounding car. Morn to noon, and noon to evening, none could face the victor's wrath. Broke and shattered, faint and frightened, Pandavs fled before his path. Still amidst the dead and dying moved his proud resistless car, till the gathering night and darkness closed the horrors of the war. 10. Fall of Bhishma. Good Yudhishthir gazed with sorrow on the dark and ghastly plain, shed his tears on chiefs and warriors by the matchless Bhishma slain. Vain this unavailing battle, vain this woeful loss of life, against the death-compelling Bhishma, hopeless in this arduous strife. As a lordly tasker tramples on a marsh of feeble reeds, as a forest conflagration on the parched woodland feeds, Bhishma rides upon my warriors in his mighty battle car. God nor mortal chief can face him in the gory field of war. Vain our toil, and vain the valor of our kinsmen loved and lost. Vainly fight my faithful brothers by a luckless fortune crossed. Nations pour their lifeblood vainly. Ceaseless wakes the sound of war. Krishna, stop this cruel carnage. Unto woods once more we go. Sad day, hold a midnight council, and the chiefs in silence meet, and to ancient Bhishma, love and mercy to entreat. Bhishma loved the sons of Pandu with a father's loving heart, but from troth unto Duryodhan, righteous Bhishma would not part.
"Sons of Pandu," said the chieftain, "Prince Duryodhana is my lord. Bhishma is no faithless servant, nor will break his plighted word. Valiant are ye, noble princes, but the chief is yet unborn. While I lead the course of battle, who the tide of war can turn? Listen more. With vanquished foemen, or who falls or takes to fight, cast his weapons, craves for mercy, and send Bhishma doth not fight. Bhishma doth not fight a rival who submits, fatigued and worn. Bhishma doth not fight the wounded, doth not fight a woman born. Back unto their tents, the Pandavs turned Krishna deep and wise. He unto the anxious Arjun thus in solemn whisper cries, Arjun, there is hope of triumph. Hath not faithful Bhishma sworn, he will fight no wounded warrior, he will fight no woman born. Female child was brave Sikhandi, Drupad's youngest son of pride. Gods have turned him to a warrior, placed him by Yudhishthir's side. Place him in the van of battle, mighty Bhishma leaves the strife. Then with ease we fight and conquer, and the forfeit is his life. Shame! Exclaimed the angry Arjun. Not in secret heroes fight, not behind a child or woman screen their valor and their might. Krishna, loath his archer Arjun to pursue this hateful strife, trick against the sinless Bhishma, fraud upon his spotless life. Knowest thou, good and noble Krishna, as a child I climbed his knee, as a boy I called him father, hung upon him lovingly. Paris' conquest, dearly purchased by a mean deceitful strife, Paris' crown and jewels sceptre, won with Bhishma's saintly life. Gravely answered noble Krishna, Bhishma falls by close of day, victim to the cause of virtue, he himself hath showed the way. Dear or hated be the foeman Arjun, thou shalt fight and slay, wherefore else the blood of nations hast thou poured from day to day. Morning dawned, and mighty Arjun, Abhimanyu young and bold, Drupad, monarch of Panchal, and Virat stern and old, brave Yudhishthir and his brothers, clad in arms and shining mail, rushed to war where Bhishma's standard gleamed and glittered in the gale. Proud Duryodhana marked their onset, and its fatal purpose knew, and his bravest men and chieftains against the fiery Pandavs trio. With Kamboja's stalwart monarch, and with Drona's mighty son, with the valiant bowman Kripa, stamped the battle still unwon. And his younger, fierce Dusasan, thirsting for the deathful war, against the helmet-wearing Arjun drew his mighty battle car. As the high and rugged mountain meets the angry ocean's sway, proud Dusasan warred with Arjun in his wild and onward way. And as myriad white-winged seabirds swoop upon the darksome wave, clouds of darts and glistening lances drank the red blood of the brave. Other warlike Kuru chieftains came, the bravest and the best, Drona's self and Vagadatta, monarch of the farthest east. Karbon Selya, mighty warrior, king of Madras' distant land, princes from Avanti's regions, chiefs from Malab's rocky strand. Jayadratha, matchless fighter, king of Sindhu's sounding shore, Chitrasena and Bikar, countless chiefs and warriors more. And faced the fiery Pandavs, peerless in their warlike might. Long and dreadful raged the combat, darkly closed the dubious fight. Thus there rose like clouds of summer, glistening darts like lightning played. Darksome grew the sky with arrows, thicker grew the gloomy shade. Cars went down, and mailed horsemen, soldiers fell in dread array. Elephants with white tusks broken, and with mangled bodies lay. Arjun and the stalwart Bhima, piercing through their countless foes, side by side impelled their chariots, where the palm tree standard rose, where the peerless ancient Bhishma, on that dark and fatal day, warring with the banded nations, still resistless held his way. On he came, his palm tree standard still the front of battle knew, and like sun from dark clouds parting, Bhishma burst on Arjun's view. And his eyes brave Arjun shaded at the awe-inspiring sight, Half he wished to turn for shelter from the chief of godlike might. But bold Krishna drove his chariot, whispered unto him his plan. Arjun placed the young Sikhandi in the dreadful battle's van. Bhishma viewed the Pandav forces with a calm, unmoving face, saw not Arjun's fair Gandhi, saw not Bhima's mighty mace. Smiled to see the young Sikhandi rushing to the battle's fore, like the foam upon the billow when the mighty storm winds roar. Bhishma thought of word he plighted, and of oath that he had sworn, dropped his arms before the warrior, who was but a female born. And the standard, which no warrior ever saw in base retreat, idly stood upon the chariot, threw its shade on Bhishma's seat. And the flagstaff fell dissevered on the crushed and broken car, as from azure sky of midnight falls the meteor's flaming star. Not by young Sikhandi's arrows Bhishma's palm tree standard fell, not Sikhandi's feeble lances did the peerless Bhishma quail. True to oath, the bleeding chieftain turned his darkening face away, turned and fell, the sun declining marked the closing of the day. And thus the fatal battle, truce came with the close of day. Kurus and the silent Pandavs went where Bhishma dying lay. Arjun wept as for a father weeps his sad and sorrowing son. Good Yudhishthir cursed the morning Kurukshetra's war begun. Stood Duryodhana and his brothers, mantled in the gloom of grief. Foes like loving brothers sorrowed round the great, the dying chief. Arjun's keen and pointed arrows made the hero's dying bed, and in soft and gentle accents to Duryodhana thus he said, List unto my words, Duryodhana, uttered with my latest breath. List to Bhishma's dying counsel, and rever the voice of death. And this dread and deathful battle, if thy stony heart can grieve, save the chieftains doomed to slaughter, bid the fated nations leave. Grant his kingdom to Yudhishthir, righteous man beloved of heaven. Keep thy own Hastina's regions, be the hapless past forgiven. Vain alas, the voice of Bhishma, like the voice of angel spoke. Hatred, dearer than his lifeblood, in the proud Duryodhana woke. Darker grew the gloomy midnight, and the princes went their way. On his bed of pointed arrows, Bhishma alone and dying lay. Karn, though he loved not Bhishma, whilst the chieftain lived in fame, gently to the dying Bhishma in the midnight darkness came. Bhishma heard the tread of Karn, and he oped his glazing eye, spake in love and spake in sadness, and his bosom heaved a sigh. Pride and envy, noble Karn, filled our warlike hearts with strife. Discord ends with breath departing, and we sink with fleeting life. More I have to tell thee, Karn, but my parting breath may fail. Feeble are my dying accents, and my parched lips are pale. Arjun beats not noble Karn in the deeds of valor done, nor excels in birth and lineage, Karn, thou art Pritha's son. Pritha bore thee, still unwedded, and the sun inspired thy birth. God-born man, no mightier archer treads this broad and spacious earth. Pritha cast thee in her sorrow, hid thee with a maiden's shame, and the driver, not thy father, nursed thee, chief of warlike fame. Arjun is thy brother, Karn, and this sad fraternal war. Seek not lifeblood of thy brother, nor against him drive thy car. Vain, alas, the voice of Bhishma, like a heavenly warning spoke. Hatred dearer than his lifeblood in the vengeful Karn woke. End of Book 8.